Okay, and looks like we're live. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody listening, wherever and whenever this podcast finds you. Thanks for tuning in, and welcome to the Bitcoin Weekly Wrap Up for August 30th, 2019. This week's weekly roundup is sponsored by eToro, a trusted smart trading platform that is over 12 years old and conducts over $1 trillion in trading annually. They offer innovative tools and advanced charting features to help you be the best trader you can be. U.S. customers can now trade the most popular crypto assets with transparent low fees. And if you're new to trading, while you are learning, you can practice, different strategies with their virtual trading tool, letting you use virtual money to test and see how your strategies would react in an actual real trading environment. And you could also connect with 11 million other traders where you can discuss trading, charting, and strategies. And right now, if you go to didyouknowcrypto.com, you'll see the link. And if you're watching in YouTube right now, you'll see the link down in the section below. If you are listening, just go to didyouknowcrypto.com and you will find that link as well in the website. And if you go to that link, didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro, that's ETORO, and you use the link that's there, you'll be doing two things. One, you'll be helping, me, because it'll let them know that you're a listener, that you heard the offer, and you want to support the podcast and thank our sponsors and go there and do all that. And by using that link, that helps them know that you're actually coming through me. But you will also get $50 for free, subject to some terms and conditions. You have to deposit a certain amount to buy and trade and sell Bitcoin. And if you head over once again to didyouknowcrypto.com/ETORO, or go down the link if you're in YouTube, and you can sign up today. So there was a lot of interesting stories this week, including price dips, back news, some kind of interesting AML individuals getting kind of wrapped up, and the Wild West days of Bitcoin seem to be getting pushed more and more to the fringes, and also mostly the Kleiman Wright case not wrapped up, but there was significant developments, and it's all but wrapped up, I would say. But before we go into that, the first story, or before we actually go into the first story, I want to remind people as well that nothing I say should be construed as financial advice or any other form of advice. All the information that I convey on this podcast or various social media platforms is for educational purposes only. So let's start with probably what's on a lot of people's minds, the recent dip in price. Bitcoin had been holding above 10,000 for the past few weeks, but recently, in the last couple of days, depending on when you listen or watch this, dropped about $600 in about 30 minutes. And as of recording right now, I believe it's around $9,400 to $9,500. I've seen some people calling for 9,000, but if that's breach, it could go down to the low 8,000s. So, there's it is what it is. We are all living in this market, and there's money to be made on both ends of the trades, as they say. And if you're going to be doing that, of course, go to didyouknowcrypto.com/ETORO. Another interesting development as well was BAKKT. If you remember, about a year ago, they announced, and BAKKT is a company that is owned by the same company that owns the New York Stock Exchange. ICE is the company, and they announced about a year ago that they were going to start offering these different products. They finally announced that they're going to be accepting storage of people's Bitcoin coming up next. Would that be next week? I believe so. Next week, September 6th, in anticipation of on the 23rd, the Bitcoin daily monthly futures offerings are going to be going live there. So it's been like I said, about a year since they first announced these plans, and have now basically accomplished all the regulatory hurdles that they needed to get through to offer these products. And it's important to remember that unlike the CME futures that have been ongoing and the CBOE that had been offered in 2017, 2018, those were settled in cash. And by that, I mean, if you wanted to buy Bitcoin futures with them, the CME CBOE futures, you would take US dollars, you would buy the futures. It would be based on, the Bitcoin market, but whether you lost or won out on that trade, you would either be losing or getting paid out in US dollars. With BAKKT, it's actually settled in Bitcoin, and you buy the futures with Bitcoin. It's locked up, and if things go well, you're paid out in Bitcoin as well. So it's a much different environment, and it's going to be very interesting. It's very cool that they've been able to kind of come up with this custodial solution where they're able to take people's Bitcoins and hold them in a actual true custodial fashion. What else? Oh, Binance announced this week that they're going to be offering a crypto lending program with a 14-day maturity term, with BNB, their native exchange token, earning 15%. Tether would earn 10%, and ETC earning 7%. And it's very well possible that I'm too financially illiterate in how these vehicles work, to maybe I'm just not getting it. That's quite possible. I'm not an expert in any of this kind of stuff. I'm just a person who's just I'm learning just like everybody else. But and also I recognize that these are supposedly used for margin traders who can be charged up to, like, I think they were saying, like, up to 109% interest for their trades. But I don't see how this is sustainable to be offering 15% with only a 14-day maturity term. BitConnect, everybody was calling it, an obvious Ponzi scam where they were offering, like, it was like 2% daily. And I mean, really, 2% daily. Oh no, it wouldn't be the same. So this is basically like if you're basically offering almost like 1% daily, non-compounded. I may be wrong, like I said, but these, when you see like returns that are beyond fantastic, right? If things seem too good to be true, you should probably exercise extreme caution. In my opinion, it reminds me of, oh goodness, I can't remember the name of the bank. I was working overseas, and some of the people that we worked with were from Colombia, and I can't remember the name of the bank. Anyways, and they kept on telling me about, oh, this is great. They double your money in like 90 days or 6 months or something like that. I can't remember if it was like 3 months or 6 months. Basically, if you gave them $1,000, they'd lock it up, and you couldn't touch it. And in 3 months or 6 months, whatever it was, they would, they double it. They'd give you $2,000. And I was telling them, I was like, this seems very fishy. Like, they've just, unless they discovered some sort of financial algorithm magic that no other bank is, because any other bank in the world, and this was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they're offering at best, like 2% on a 1-year CD, maybe upwards of 3%. No, probably not at that time. Like, they've somehow found out how to, like, double your money, give you 100% return on your, like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And they would tell me, like, oh, hefe, no, it's all about, it's just that's just propaganda from the government, because the government hates them, right? And it turns out it was exactly that. It was a Ponzi. I actually thought about doing it because it's like, if you can get in on a Ponzi before it crashes, you can actually make money. The problem is timing it. And if it's locked up for, I think, and that seems more right, that it was 6 months or a year, that, I thought, like, wow, if I throw like 20 grand on there, I could double it or put even more. But I was like, it's just not worth it. So I never did it. Plus, you'd have to, like, fly down to Panama, and you'd have to wire money to a Panamanian bank and then walk across the street to this bank. I can't remember the name of it. It's like DNG or something like that. Anyways, anyways, my better common sense got the it got the better of me, and thankfully so. And I never tried to do that. Plus, it just reeked of probably money laundering, and that would just be a bad thing to be involved in at all. Anyways, yeah, and eventually, I think it was about a year later or so, it got raided and shut down as a Ponzi scheme. They never, obviously they were just doing a Bernie Madoff type of scam there. So, anyways, long story short, if things seem too good to be true, really just be very careful what you do. There was one other one before I go to Kleiman here, and I'm reading this on CoinDesk. It's a 25-year-old Bitcoin seller faces life sentence for unlicensed exchange. And there's another gentleman, if I'm not mistaken, and he just didn't he get rearrested or something like that. I can't remember this guy. What's his name? He was I can't remember. There's another gentleman got that he was an early Bitcoiner who got caught in a federal sting with this. So this guy was from Westwood, Los Angeles. He pled guilty to federal charges for having exchanged up to 25 million in cash and cryptocurrencies without a license and anti-AML, anti-money laundering program. He was Kunal Kara, known as Kumar or Shekelmain, and Coinman. He was indicted Friday. Allegedly trading cash and crypto for individuals, including drug dealers, partially via his Bitcoin ATM kiosk. They are basically saying he ran an unlicensed Bitcoin exchange. And, if you, this is the problem with like the local Bitcoin stuff is that, sorry, scoot back here a little bit, kind of hitting the desk. If you, like I thought about it, like, oh, this will be, I thought about doing this a while back, quite a few years ago. It's like I could, there's a lot of people want to be involved in Bitcoin, maybe want to own, just like $100 of it, and or $1,000, and don't necessarily want to go through all the things of going to Coinbase, signing up, taking their pictures and all this other kind of stuff, and linking their bank accounts just to buy a couple $100 or whatever, and then calling it a day. I was like, why don't I just buy it and sell it to them? And then when I started to look into the legal implications, this is what I ran into, is that if you're trading Bitcoin for cash as a business, you can run afoul of these laws where you're specifically taking cash in exchange for Bitcoin for the purposes of, whatever, right? Charlie Shrem also got hit for this because he knew that the person was using it for illegal means. Yeah, some of these guys were selling it on, of course, they were running it on some dark markets and stuff like that, because, like, why else would you go? I shouldn't say that. That's passing way too much judgment. There's a lot of reasons why you go person to person, just because you want anonymity and you don't necessarily want an exchange breathing down your neck or anything like that. So I don't mean to say that why else would you go and do that, but you're going to have a much larger percentage probably of people who are going to be doing that for that reasons. I'm not passing judgment on that either, but just it's just more of a cautionary tale I wanted to pass along to folks, to just be careful, make sure that you are aware of the law, and make sure that you are aware of what you're doing is within the law. Doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. You're not going to do anybody any good in an 8x10 cell. And the last, but certainly not least, there was a very interesting development in the Kleiman Estate versus Craig Wright case. If you're not aware, just a quick rundown. Craig Wright is a man who is claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto. He is not. And, he's been involved in some other things and all that. And his old business partner, a man by the name of Dave Kleiman, who died, and was him, and he made claims that possibly like him and Dave were involved in the creation of Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. And so his brother decided to sue for what he felt was intellectual property and money that was owed the estate, since his brother had died and didn't get any of that, right? A judge ordered that Craig must turn over half of his Bitcoin holdings and intellectual property to the estate of Dave Kleiman, which is his brother Ira, who's been pursuing the case. And the ruling applies to all the holdings and IP from before 2014. So anything prior to that. So Craig has claimed that he holds all these Satoshi coins. I don't believe that in the least. And I don't think he actually probably has anything at all. And this was just kind of a him trying to find a silver lining in his lie of claiming to be Satoshi, that, you know, he got sued for it. At the end of the day, if you have nothing, you can't turn over half of anything, right? But also trying to use this as a way to have a court hopefully say that you are Satoshi, which is what they've been trying to do, even though the court has repeatedly said, and said so in this ruling, that they're not making a ruling on whether Craig is Satoshi Nakamoto or not. They're just making a ruling based on, you know, the estate's right to any business that they engaged in. The holdings are estimated around 10 billion, and, you know, basically it's too convoluted of a case to go through, really. But the case is technically not over yet. There's still some procedures that need to be gone through, collection, how they're going to do this, how they're going to make sure that all of what's owed the estate, you know, is counted up. It's been very hazy. They've just basically done this really awkward way of like, well, just whatever hasn't moved during that time that was mined, with a certain signature on it, which is the way that they went about it, was basically based on another Patoshi. I can't remember the exact article, but there's a gentleman who analyzed a bunch of the data of early miners in Bitcoin, and they found these patterns that they believe, it's not proven, but believe this is an indicator of the Satoshi mined ones. And basically that's what Craig and his folks came up with. They just pretty much mirrored that exact same work that somebody had done years ago. So this was basically a sanction and contempt hearing, and the judge was quite was quite harsh on them. Where was the quote? In reference to Craig Wright, the judge wrote, "He is engaged in a willful and bad faith pattern of obstructive behavior, including submitting incomplete or deceptive pleadings, filing a false declaration, knowingly producing a fraudulent trust document, and giving well, here run into me not knowing certain words. I was going to say perjurious testimony, but basically accusing him of perjury in his testimony at the evidentiary hearing." He found that Dr. Wright alone is fully responsible for any evasion, incomplete or false representations to the court, or noncompliance with the court orders. Basically, the judge ripped him a new one and said that he didn't believe any of the stuff that Craig was trying to say was true, and also not only not true, but also done so willingly, willfully, and knowingly that it was false and fake. There's a lot of different stuff that was involved in this. Obvious forgeries of backdated trust documents that were bought off the shelf. You know, the Tulip Trust was basically, it seemed like, at least from what was submitted, I want to be very careful on what I say because there's certain individuals that are very litigious. But it seems like the judge would agree that that these documents that were supposedly signed when Dave was still alive, this Bitcoin is put into trust, was purchased, you know, in 2014 or whatever, years later, after David already died, and then backdated to make it look like it's very, I mean, like, to really go through the whole ordeal, and so much of it is obfuscated of this. I mean, I have to hand it to him. It is a beautifully crafted con. I mean, there's so many moving parts. There's so much stuff. Like, this is not just somebody coming out of the woodwork and just saying, "I'm Satoshi Nakamoto," putting up a few bad emails and calling it a day. Like, there's been a lot of work put into this. During the court hearing, there was the supposed bit message was used for some conversations that Craig was putting up forward between him and Dave that showed that him and Dave were involved in the creation of Bitcoin. And it seemed like, it was basically pretty much proven in court not to be true. The creator of BitMessage was saying that the version that the messages, the version of the software that the messages were shown were, from a version that was not even released yet. And it was a very interesting defense of a lot like that and other forged documents. So, well, maybe a hacker, stole the later version that hadn't been released, and that's how Craig was able to get it. And well, this document wasn't, this document or this or that was a forgery, but it wasn't done by him, even though the only person that benefited from it was him, and that maybe a hacker hacked in and did it to him, which would make no sense. Like, this is the digital version of the dog ate my homework, right? It's very goofy. So anyways, it was really, those of us who, which is the majority of this community, who have recognized who Craig is and what he represents, and just using basic common sense and Occam's razor for any of this, have known that this is, the lady doth protest too much for most of his, for all of his claims. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He had 3 years to do the simplest of things, moving coins. He promised in a blog post that he would do that. And not only was moving coins necessary, but it was just the most base level of proof, and that extraordinary proof beyond that was needed, beyond just moving coins, because moving coins, as CSW supporters have pointed out, only proves that you have the keys now, which is absolutely true. It doesn't actually prove that you were Satoshi. It just proves that you have Satoshi's keys now. But it's a very important step, and that is a first step. Then you bring in all the other evidence to show it. But if, like, the very basic thing you have to do, move coins, move a little bit out, that's it. And ever since then, he made that promise he was going to do it, didn't do it, and then years and years, throughout the years, just said, well, I don't have to do that if I don't want to. It's a very childlike response. It's something I recognize very much with my own children. That's their kind of mental thinking. Well, I don't have to do it. I don't have to prove anything to you. It's ridiculous. So, anyways, that's my thoughts. I think most of you would agree. I don't think there's too many BSV supporters that would be listening to me anyways, as I'm pretty outspoken with my disagreements and belief that he is absolutely not, and in no way could ever be, Satoshi Nakamoto. So I think that's all that I have for today's weekly wrap up. Let's just check and see if there's any last minute things that were showing up. No, mostly a lot of fluff. I'm seeing now. I actually, so UN official today said crypto makes policing child trafficking exceptionally difficult. I had a friend that actually, like, jokingly messaged me and was going, giving me that, jokingly, oh, well, it was actually about child trafficking. How do you like supporting something that makes child trafficking actually easier or whatever? And it was just a ridiculous thing. He was joking about it, of course, but this was a 2013 thing, right? Terrorism, drug dealers, dark markets, and all the stuff associated with that. That was a 2013, 2014, really more 2013 kind of narrative that was going on. That was absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that all this stuff has existed before, 99.9% of it after, right now, and 100% of it prior to 2008 were done in cash or whatever local currency commodity that they were using. Diamonds, drugs, whatever were used. So can it be used for these things? Absolutely. But these things already existed. It's just like you're grafting on a new thing where cash was, making X happen. Now, Bitcoin can also make X happen, right? If your argument is that it makes Bitcoin bad, it also makes the cash bad, right? But, one must control the narratives. And I want to keep this one shorter. Last time I went like 40 minutes, so I am not going to do that to you guys today. And we're going to keep this short, about 20 minutes. I'm going to aim for between 10 and 20 minutes, hopefully about 15. So before I go, I want to thank all of you guys for watching if you're on YouTube, and for listening if you're listening on the podcast. And if you guys could, if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast and do a little notification. If you click the little bell there, it'll let you know whenever we go live, whenever I upload a new video. If you're listening, if you can like and leave a written review on iTunes, if you could share the podcast, and also now that's live, you can go to supportmypodcast.com. You can go there. There's different ways to support, Amazon, iTunes, all this other kind of stuff. But if you click the listener supporter discounts section, a little pop-up's going to come up. It's just going to ask for your name, your email. You go on an email list that I hold, and all I do with that is just let you know when a new episode's coming up. If I need, when I reach out to the audience and I ask for, hey, what things do you want to know about? Is there any other, is there guests you want me to bring back? Things like that. I don't sell it. I'm not gonna be, signing you up for MLM or anything like that. I don't sell my lists. I don't do anything like that. It would destroy a person's brand if you were doing something like that. And brand is what a podcast and everything is built on. I would never do that. You get discounts on things like Trezor Bitcoin wallets, Cold Card Bitcoin wallets, Keep Bitcoin wallets, Bitcoin tax software, Bitcoin.tax. You get a promo for that. Mushroom Coffee. You can get a discount on that. I'm going to be getting a lot more different health products and things that I use. There's also Bitcoin and non-Bitcoin art, Bitcoin apparel companies, like All Things Decentral and a bunch of other ones. And I am constantly adding more. Like I just added 2 more this week, which was a Cold Card and Bitcoin.tax. I'm going to be getting much more. Those are absolutely free. There's no sign up for $5 a month or anything like that. All I just wanted to do is just sign up for the email list, which I don't sell. I don't do anything with other than just keep in contact with you guys. Or if ever, there's ever deep platforming, email lists are really the best way to kind of let you know, like, hey, I'm going to here or whatever. Here's how you can find the podcast from now on. So I think it's really important that I start developing that list of my listeners. And in exchange for trusting me with your contact information and reading my emails that I send out on occasion, you get these free promos for a lot of really cool stuff. So head over to supportmypodcast.com and sign up today. And once again, thank you so much for listening, for watching, and have a great time. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, now you get to see me try to figure out how to do end the stream.